Welcome back to the Fitness League, helping busy humans build strong bodies, sharper minds, and better lives. Join us each week as we cut through the noise, challenge the norms, and empower you to train smarter and live stronger. You probably felt it. Between the 4 new health apps you downloaded this month, the cold plunge in your backyard, and there, the standing desk mat with texture zones, and your 57-day streak of sleep data that somehow still says you're tired. We've never had more access, more options, or more technology aimed at making us feel better. So why are so many of us still confused, inconsistent, and burnt out on optimizing? Let's dive into the noise. We're going to break down what's actually worth doing, what's just a nice to have, and how to build trust in your own body, not just your data. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back. Who's everybody?
The listeners, not just us.
I guess welcome back to you guys. Joelle's not here, so it's just us. Yeah, we're a little sleepy today. Why are we a little sleepy today? You more than me.
We have 3 kids, and the reason I don't sleep is because of my dogs. So Kona is in the midst of a diarrhea, throw up, eat random stuff from the yard bout. Super infuriating. These dogs get home-cooked meals. They sleep in luxurious beds. They are as bougie as it gets. I won't speak for Cal. Cal's been great. Kona just seems like she gets a little bit dumber every week. I have been very proud of having dogs that don't eat crap they find in the yard. They don't eat sticks. They don't eat rocks. They don't eat stuff laying around the house. And Kona has decided that she's just rebelling on all of that. And I'm not sure what to do about it. So she was up every single hour last night. 2 nights ago, she was up every couple hours, just running out to go to the bathroom. And yeah, here we are, showing up, exhausted.
Doing it tired. Yeah, ironically, last night I did wake up once, but I thought it was just the one time I was in a deep sleep, I think, for the rest of the bouts that you woke up for.
Must be nice.
Well, I put in my due diligence with Wes, so maybe this is just God telling you that you needed to wake up with somebody for a little bit since you didn't have to do it with baby 3.
I guess.
But anyway, we're here, we're doing it tired, and we're just going to do the best that we can to make it a good day moving forward. So
I will say, being in these super stressed, super exhausted states brings what we're about to talk about today to an even more heightened state. Like, there was a time last week where I'm just like, I want to take off this whoop. Like, I'm done with all this stuff. I just want to go back to the norm, back to the things. I didn't, because I am a little bit addicted to the tech and I like the data and I don't ever want to lose the data. And I knew this was just a moment of like, I'm burnt out. And
well, you were experiencing your neck stuff last week, so
yeah,
that was probably why.
That was also frustrating, seeing all my data go down because I was moving minimally, not training, not lifting at all for 5-6 days. I woke up, I don't think we told this story. I woke up last week and couldn't move my neck, had crazy spasms, and like, just, it felt like it was ripping off of my spine. And I think I freaked out when I woke up and I went to turn really fast and like roll over to get up, and I like shredded the left side of my neck. So I ended up getting deep tissue massage and like icing it and doing the hot cold back and forth, and it helped a little bit. It loosened up after the massage, but I actually did a significant strain in my neck. So I was still turning like I was strapped to a piece of plywood. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks juggling all this, and I hate to see everything that I do not go down the drain. It's short term and it's already bouncing back. I'm starting to move again, but I hate seeing those downtrends. So it's not just you guys. Like, this is what we do, and we put all this stuff out, and we still get discouraged when stuff does hit the fan a bit. But back to this. I did not take off the whoop. I do enjoy the data, and we'll talk about some things I like and don't like. Again, I've talked about it a couple times, but related specific in this episode. But there is so much out there as far as what you can do, what you can track. You can have 15 different apps. You got at least 4 different wearable options, and you're debating which one's the best and what are going to track the best metrics. And I can tell you, it's not just us who are curious. Like, you guys, we know we're curious, because one of our best episodes was like comparing the Whoop and the Oura Ring, and they're very similar, just, slight differences in regards to who their ideal avatar is. So it hits all of us to a point, but it really makes you question, okay, what do I really need to do? What's going to give me the most bang for my buck? Not just resources of finances, like the best pricing, but like your energy. That's all a resource. How much time and mental bandwidth can you have to tracking here, there, everywhere, paying attention to all the data. Mini plug, that is why we are building out the fitness league the way that we are, the app, so that everything can be in one place and you can take care of the main things and track things you want to track, and not necessarily needing wearables, but like just going off biofeedback or going off of simple habits you want to really build on. So providing tools to everyone based on, what segment of things they really want to focus on. But we're going to dive in with the first part here, basically explaining the rise of sensory micro interventions. So this is basically how small sensory cues like light, scent, sound, and touch can impact mood, stress, and health. So we'll introduce the trend, microdosing wellness through these brief soundscapes, light therapy, cold water, scent triggers. So I guess we can dive in with the quick explanation of binaural beats. I found this one really interesting. So the main concept of this segment is basically trends with small passive nudges to the nervous system. The first one we're going to talk about, binaural beats are used to reduce anxiety. So for those of you who are unaware, I actually had to dig into this a little bit myself. Binaural beats are an auditory illusion created when two tones of slightly different frequencies are played into each ear through headphones. This actually causes the brain to perceive a third pulsating tone. This phenomenon can influence brainwave frequencies, leading to potential benefits such as reduced stress and anxiety, increased focus, improved sleep, and depending on the frequency of how often this is used. You've also got things like lavender oil to improve sleep onset, light therapy lamps for mood and circadian health. And the research does back these things. Even 2 to 5 minutes of sensory changes can downregulate stress or shift attention. So the pro of this category, or some of the pros, it's very low effort. It's typically not a major time investment. Most of these things aren't expensive. So a lot of these are free. They are habit stackable. The con is that oftentimes these are used as band-aids instead of solving the deeper problems like poor sleep or under eating. So in conjunction with the big rocks, which you talk about all the time, these things can be pretty helpful. They're supplemental. But if we say, I'm not sleeping well, so I'm just going to throw on a lavender oil diffuser, and that's going to help me sleep and everything's going to get better, that's not the case. So a lot of times we try to move around or skip around the bigger rocks, the foundational pieces, like, this is really going to help. It's going to help a small percentage in conjunction with the bigger thing.
I think I'm assuming that will be one of our main talking points of this episode is just the mindset people have when it comes to these things. Like they think investing in, you gave the lavender oil example, it's something small, whether it's that or something bigger like a cold plunge or, any of the things that we talk about. It's like, this is the secret thing that I need that's going to fix all of my problems. And that's very rarely, if ever, the case. It's not necessarily something that you can just buy something and then you don't have to worry about anything else. I can't think of one thing that does that. So I guess I just want to say, keep that in mind as you listen to this whole episode. I'm sure we'll continue to harp on it, but I think people often, especially those who aren't like super involved or maybe just dipping their toes into wellness and health, they think it really is just going to come down to this supplement or this thing that's going to be their savior and be like the thing that fixes them. But it's never the case. It's always everything else in conjunction with each other and like kind of putting together your own puzzle piece of things that ultimately completes the puzzle.
So there might be some things in here, like we're going to talk about both angles of it, but you might be like, that's a good idea. I should try that. I can do this. I can add this in, which is fine. But I want to highlight, if you are doing the main thing, then it makes sense. It doesn't make sense to not be prioritizing 7 hours or more of sleep. Like the oil diffuser is going to change the game, or these lights are going to change the game. They're going to help, but it's not going to do anything. It's like basically buying gas without owning a car. Like you can't just pour the gas and get yourself to work. You need the vehicle. The gas is just the fuel. It helps you get there. You need the main thing first. So keep that in mind as we go throughout this. If you go, that's interesting, we'll just make sure that the main thing's being done as well. The next part I want to dive into is the actual environment that you're living in. So how this programs your health. Hey guys, real quick. If you've been listening and thinking, I need to start doing something for my health, but I don't have time for a full program, that is literally why we built the SDE Method app. It's a fitness app made for real people with real lives. Busy parents, working professionals, anyone juggling 100 things. You can get in, get a smart, effective workout in around 30 minutes, some even closer to 20 minutes, and log out knowing you made progress. You can finally take the guessing out of your workouts. We have workouts designed to be done at the gym or at home, and you get access to all of them when you sign up. As life phases change, you can pick a new one that aligns better with what you have going on right now. And one more thing, we are also qualified for HSA FSA reimbursement. So just hit the app link in the show notes, start where you are, we'll help with the rest. All right, let's get back to the show. Basically, how light, layout, sound, materials shape behavior and physiology. This can be at home, this can be at work, but basically, really diving into what you surround yourself with and how that impacts your habits. And spoiler, it is significantly more the impact than motivation. Like it is, we talk about this all the time. It is about your surroundings, it is about your environment. It is so much easier to change your environment than to change your habits. So, this is becoming more of a real world trend. Couple quick examples. Offices are installing circadian lighting. Schools are adding green walls to reduce cortisol in students, helps with stress. And even prisons are focusing on reducing violent behavior by adding more natural light access. So the first question to ask yourselves is, does your space support your goals? Is it designed for your goals, around your goals, or for convenience and clutter? And we all kind of get into these traps, obviously, with different seasons of life. But there are some simple things that we can do. And to give you a couple swaps right off the bat, you can move your phone charger out of your bedroom or put it across the room when you go to sleep. You can put a yoga mat, leaving that in sight somewhere, not in the closet, but leave it out. You know, if there's a specific area that you walk by every day and that's where you would do your yoga, just keep the mat over there. You can also face your desk near a window. It's obviously, if you've worked in a cubicle or in an office without windows, a significant change in your mental health if you can look outside. One of the basic components there is just fractals that exist throughout nature, just these endless shapes that your mind kind of focuses on. And it's very alleviating. And we will talk about nature a bit further in this episode, but that is a very simple thing you can do to reduce overall anxiety.
I even think about like when I get back into running postpartum, or just like even when have set up our home gym throughout the years, like I'm always somebody who really thrives on making things look nice and feel nice. And like, I always like the natural light. Like when we were building this house, like natural light, I wanted a lot of windows. But like, even just the running thing, like trying to get myself to run more. I remember when our treadmill was not in front of the window in the gym, and I like randomly moved it over there one day, and I am so much more likely to use the treadmill now that it's in front of the window and I have something to stare out at versus just staring at the wall. So that's just a small example, but just like changing positions of things, like even just changing the positioning of your home office, or like you said, putting the desk in front of a window, or just changing it to a different room. We've had many home offices over the years, and I feel like now we're in our basement, but even like I'll still work sometimes upstairs because I do like the natural light. So you have to figure out what feels best and is going to make you most excited for each scenario that you're trying to improve upon too.
But even in the basement, and this is something we're going to talk about here in a minute, again, going back to nature, we have certain elements of the design. We've got plants down here, like you can see behind us. We have really warm wood for the doors and the trim around the doors. And, you know, even behind us here, the wood panels. So the walls are black. If it was just a straight black room, the ceiling's black, it would not be very conducive to productivity and mental health. But we have some things sprinkled in to warm it up. And we'll talk about what that's actually doing. But yeah, even going back to the treadmill, like I cannot do even a 3 mile run on a treadmill and like not want to blow my brains out. But that said, I can do like a 15-minute hit session and it is significantly nicer. We've got a great view. We've got a pond right across the street, something to just kind of look at and zone out and listen to some music versus like, again, staring at that wall, even if you are listening to music. So those are just some quick, obvious comparisons of like a quick shift in your environment and what that does for you. But a couple things to kind of think about as you look around. So poor lighting or really, really bright, sterile lights, the bright, bright white lights, those can disrupt sleep and mood. It throws off your circadian rhythm. It impacts, especially based on the time of day and how late you're at work or wherever this environment is, impacts your melatonin production. So little things to think about there. You can actually swap out those bright lights for something a bit warmer, still bright enough to see, obviously, but a
Even just
warmer tone.
getting lamps, like lamps are increasing in popularity. Like a lot of people put them like on their kitchen counters, and like we have one in our bathroom, and like I got a special like rechargeable light bulb that changes, like you can make it more warm or brighter. And I think that's genius. One, if we ever lose power, we'll still have light from that lamp at least. And two, you can kind of customize it to the time of day. You can put it on different timers. So there's so many options as far as like making your home feel a little not just more cozy, but just like having the light be helpful as far as what time of day it is and what your goals are.
And one thing that was looked at that I haven't thought about, but it certainly makes sense is, especially at home, open layouts. So we have an open laid out ranch, which was always the dream. And that means the kitchen and the living room and the dining room, like it's all one large open area. The issue with that is, especially in high stimulus homes with a lot of little kids running around, is there's no noise barriers and there's clutter everywhere. Maybe your laptop's laying around, so you're always thinking about work. You can see everything, you can hear everything, you can feel everything. So there's really no buffer in that. And that's not to say, like, I still love this place and we wanted this, it was for gatherings, but there are some things that we can do to kind of improve on that. So you can segment different areas, which we kind of have. We've been here about 3 or 4 years and we're still not fully moved in, it feels like, but you can segment different areas of the open layout, break it up with some plants and some different seating areas or whatever you want to do, some shelves. And that does provide buffers to kind of separate each segment of the area. So something to think about there. Also important, again, kind of circling back to those visual cues. These can be pros or these can be cons. So something like having a fridge full of prepackaged foods or meal prep foods, or just having the good stuff, the quote unquote healthier options readily available versus, you know, the snacks that you struggle with and we're constantly stocked up on, but they're laying around and it's easier to kind of grab and go. So it can work for you or it can work against you. A couple important research highlights. Access to natural light. Again, this is going to improve productivity. It also naturally reduces cortisol. There's also a big component here with the design. So going back to nature, I mentioned this a couple times, having plants and wood and texture, this reduces perceived stress. Now, part of this is because we're just naturally wired for nature, literally. We spent 99% of our evolutionary history in natural environments. And because of this, our brains and nervous systems are actually attuned to natural patterns. So those are the fractals I kind of mentioned before, but it's the movement of leaves in the wind. It's the ripple of water. It's those fractals, the geometry found in trees and shells and clouds, just these endless shapes in nature that our minds and our brains and our eyes are consistently drawn to. So exposure to this kind of stimulus can actually calm the amygdala. That's the part of your brain responsible for fear processing and threat, which means less stress hormone, more parasympathetic activation. That's the rest and digest state.
You know,
Another,
it's
go ahead.
interesting. I guess this, I mean, it probably isn't directly applied because I was still technically out in nature. But when I went for a run at Joelle's house in Long Island, which is very, I wouldn't even say it's city. It's definitely, what is it, a suburb? Yeah, so more of a suburb, but just like a lot more houses than we're used to out here in Connecticut, where we're kind of like more countryside. I mean, I say that very loosely. We're in a neighborhood, but it's still, there's more land. But when I run here, I'm typically running on the trails or like in our neighborhood. And I went for a run there and I just felt way more stressed with like all of the cars. There was cars everywhere, just running around houses, like house after house after house, compared to my trail with the wood, like being alone in the woods for an hour. I finished that run. I was just like, I don't know if I could ever run in as a New Yorker. Like, I feel like I would just, I don't know if that's just me, but like I like looking at the trees. I like zoning out and not thinking about anything around me. And I noticed just such a difference with that viewpoint at her house versus here. So just an interesting observation about nature.
And if you run around here at the wrong time, it can be pretty similar too. Like there's one main road. If I'm doing a longer run, I'll take out there. And if cars are flying, they're going to work, coming home from work. If I'm out at that time, like it's just as stressful. So it's just obviously more people hanging out in that suburb area. But yeah, that's a big part of it. The next component here is going to be plants. So integrating some plants. Plants will naturally reduce cortisol and boost mood. Kind of going back to what you're talking about being in the city and the stress with the running. Like I've made it very known to our close group of friends, like I could never live in the actual city. And again, they're not in the city, but we used to go to the city from time to time and my heart rate was always up the entire time. It was not relaxing. Just as soon as we got onto the highway that was remotely close until we got home, like I could never settle back in. But that's just because there's a lot less greenery, I think. You can't go touch some grass. But when you do that, when we do have those plants involved, it is lowering blood pressure. We're reducing the salivary cortisol, which is that key stress hormone. We're improving our subjective focus and well-being. And even just looking at images of nature can have a similar effect. It is measurable. So it's just the way we were created. It is so important to get outside, to touch nature, to be in nature. What do they call it? Nature bathing. Like when you go for a hike and you're actually just surrounded by woods and water, and ideally you can't hear the traffic and all that. So our bodies were created for this. If you are stressed out, if you're not taking care of your mental health, it is one of the simplest things you can do. If you can't do it daily, get out on the weekend, pick one day a week and just go be in nature for 30 minutes. It will literally change your body. It's absolutely incredible. Number 3 would be natural materials. So we talked about wood. Materials like unfinished wood, wool, cotton, these carry sensory qualities that just make you feel grounded. They also absorb noise, they soften harsh light, and they create texture-rich environments that contrast with the sterile look or these synthetic surfaces that are much more common in modern architecture. Again, this is going to help to reduce overstimulation. It signals safety. These sterile environments like hospitals unconsciously increase alertness. Even in our kitchen, like again, we've kind of moved in 4 years later, but everything's very white, and we try to warm it up a little bit with some tones on the couches and wood accents and some plants. But I would like to get some color and maybe some additional accent walls or something going in there, because I definitely feel it.
I mean, even think like I think about, I'm sure there's plenty of their factors here, but like anytime we've been in the hospital after having a baby, like that night of sleep is always absolutely terrible. And I'm sure there's plenty of hormone shifts happening within me. And like you go through this stress of labor, of course, and there's just beeping and noises that you're not used to. But like there's just something about being there that I absolutely despise. And I never, ever, ever sleep good there. And then we come home, even with a newborn baby, at first night of sleep in our bed. I think we broke out of the hospital at like 11 p.m. with Cora just so that we could go home like within 24 hours. And I slept so much better, even with broken sleep at home compared to being in the hospital. So I think we all can probably relate to that.
Yeah, we pushed hard for that. They wanted us to stay till morning. Like, we will leave in the middle of the night, do the last test you got to do, and we are bouncing. Yeah, game changer. So the bottom line with this, the biophilic design, this isn't just aesthetic. It actually taps into ancient biological responses to promote calm, focus, and recovery. Even a single plant, a wood accent, or a view of trees from your window can be enough to shift your physiology away from stress and into balance. So take all these things into account. You do not need to remodel your home. Think about the small things like moving fitness gear into plain sight for environment, rearranging your kitchen to put healthy food at arm's reach, and use, lighting, dimmers, and schedules to cue your brain to wind down at the end of the day. Now, the next the next segment we want to talk about is analog wellness, which we don't want to mean anti-tech, but this is essentially the rise of journaling, things like cold plunges, printed cookbooks, analog alarm clocks. It's essentially a recalibration because we're craving the realness of the real world again, tangibility, autonomy. So we'll kind of dive into the digital overload that makes, I don't know if you guys have felt it, but these analog tools feel fresh again. So this was kind of what I'm referring to with that pull to just take the whoop off and get back to the natural stuff for a minute.
I think too, like it's not just the wearables, it's also like you can basically do anything and everything from your phone, even like reading a book. So like for me, like actually I started reading the Bible through the Bible app, and I was like, this just feels weird. So like that's when I took out my actual hardcover Bible again, and it just feels so much different for me than using the app. So like making shifts in certain areas where you can too, like even as somebody who loves her aura ring, like I'm gonna try to read more real books or like just journal. Like I know there's plenty of journaling apps where you can just either write it in your notes or write it in the journal app. I don't want a journal app. I want to write pen to paper, write my stuff down that way. So I think just like being aware of like doing what you can. And even if you are somebody who still loves their Apple Watch or their Oura Ring or their Whoop or their Garmin or whatever it is, like we're not saying don't use that stuff. Obviously, we're building a whole app to help you guys. But I think just like making those shifts in areas that really matter is the best way to do it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I have always been anti like Kindle. Like, I want to feel a book. I love the collection of books. I love seeing books around. Eventually, I don't know where we're going to put it, but I would love to have an eventual like full built out library and just nice little sitting area. That was actually going to be Wes's room, and obviously he changed the plan a little bit. Uh, yeah, nothing like picking up a book versus reading it off of a screen. Can't do it. So people are choosing to opt out of these hyper digital, landscapes, and we're circling back to actually journaling, like you mentioned, with pen and paper. Some people are looking at cold plunges versus recovery apps. It's just the physical feeling of being there. You're immersed in something. In cold plunges, you are literally immersed in the cold water. Using analog clocks to reduce screen time. You're just not constantly staring at a screen. And it's difficult, even outside of health apps. Like, everything is digital. Everything is intertwined. Your house can run on your phone now. You can lock your doors, and you can look at your cameras, and you can, set your temperature and this, that, and the other. Like, everything runs through a screen. And you need that detox to a certain extent a lot of the times. So again, digital wellness tools, they can be performative and anxiety inducing versus we're doing these things for health and for fitness. They should be combating those things. But just a simple, concept of looking at sleep trackers, for example. Some people are actually dealing with orthosomnia, which is stress about not sleeping enough because of the sleep trackers. So this tracking can become super obsessive, and it's a double-edged sword because you do want to be aware of it and you want to notice trends. So I'm not even saying like avoid the sleep trackers. I'm simply saying be aware of what it can cause and just allow it to impact your behavior and to impact your habits so you can maximize the use of those. Don't obsess over it. Don't go digging through, miles and miles of data points and graphs and everything else. Take the key components. And this is my beef with Whoop, with the Whoop app. There is so much stuff in there where I feel like unless you are an elite athlete, you could trim this thing down to next to nothing. Deliver the most critical data points and metrics, or have someone say, hey, I want to focus on these things, and only surface those, because you can get lost. You could scroll through like social media. You can get lost for hours. You can get lost for an hour just scrolling through your specific health data.
It reminds me of, so there's this app, fellow parents, you may be familiar with it. It's called Huckleberry. And I use it usually like the first month or two with all of the babies, but it has the capability to track every nap, every diaper, whether it's a pee or a poop diaper, how many ounces you fed them or how long they fed, which is really what I used it for, is like just to time our feedings, just with all of them in those earlier days, just to make sure, or to keep tabs on like when they were feeding. But you can literally track every single thing about your baby. And I can see, like, especially in those early postpartum days where your mental health is also a little more sensitive, I guess. It can be it can get to the point where you obsess over it. And there's been instances, like, I think more so with Kai and like getting him to sleep as first time parents, where I mean, you too, like, we are very strict about keeping routines with our kids and their sleep. But at the same time, like, if there is a night where we're out with friends or we're having dinner outside and they're up 30 minutes later, it's not the end of the world. And I think with Kai, like, I almost got to the point where I was obsessed over it, where it was like, if it was 5 minutes past his nap time, it was like, we've messed up the whole day. Now on baby 3, it's a little bit different. Like, I'm much more flexible, but there's a difference. And this kind of relates back to all things health and fitness, right? Like, you want to be routine, you want to be consistent, but that doesn't mean it has to be perfection down to the minute. And I think apps like that, when you're tracking all things baby, it can become very obsessive. And I think for some people, that's how they also use the sleep data with Aura and Whoop and all of that. Like, it can get to the point where it's taking more from your life than it's giving you, because you're missing out on family events, or I don't know. It's hard to talk about because we have missed and like gone home early from stuff before too, even pre-kids, just because we prioritize our sleep. But I think there's a difference of like doing it for the reason that you know that it adds value versus doing it and it's stressing you out and it's just this never-ending cycle and it's not actually helping you sleep better. Does that make sense?
Listen, if you're tired of the all or nothing cycles, the diet starts Monday, the I know what to do, I'm just not doing it feeling, we should probably talk. Our one-on-one online coaching isn't just about workouts and meal plans. It's about building something that actually fits your life. No cookie cutter templates, no guilt, just real coaching and real results. Plus, we've got a pretty big team, so we can even pair you with an expert who actually understands your lifestyle because they've gone through it too. If that sounds like what you've been missing, check out the link in the show notes to apply for coaching. Then we'll send you the link to book a free, no obligation consult call with our team. There are no hard closes. We won't even take your credit card over the phone. You'll get the details to sign up on your own time. And more good news, we are in fact qualified for HSA FSA reimbursement. One last thing, we even offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. What are you waiting for? Spots are limited, so apply today. All right, let's get back to the show. Well, to that exact point, on my fourth wake up with Kona last night, I'm thinking about the sleep debt that I'm accumulating on my Whoop. And this is one of those things, again, I love it and I hate it. I love seeing, because sleep debt is a real thing. Like if you're sleeping 6 hours a night, that doesn't just go away with your first 8 hour night of sleep. Like it has accumulated over time and you're paying interest. We've talked about that. At the same time, I'm stressing. We just talked about this orthosomnia, the stress about not sleeping enough. I'm stressing about I'm adding a significant number to my sleep debt and I have to make this up. Where am I going to make it up? I'm not really sure because we're up from, dawn until dusk with the kids and with work and getting stuff ready for the TFL launch and all of the things. Where do you find the time? If I find the time, it's because something else got compromised. So while I'm angry that I'm up for the fourth time and I'm getting up every hour, I'm not getting great sleep, I'm thinking about that too. And it adds and it compounds and it stops being a tool and it starts being a new point of stress for me to worry about. So it is this balance where we have to figure out, we have to come to the realization of like, this should only be here to help. It's here to create awareness and we will have to figure it out how to resolve that, the sleep debt, make up for that at a later point in time. But this is where a lot of the burnout and the digital fatigue is coming from.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that too. And we've talked about this before on the podcast, where it's a tool. At the end of the day, it's a tool and it's not something that is straight up telling you exactly how it is all the time either. Because even after like a bad night of sleep, your Aura ring says you got a 90 sleep score and you were up with your newborn a few times and you don't feel your best. Like, you know your body more than this device knows your body, even though it seems like this device should be telling you what to feel. So don't let it dictate how you actually feel. And that's something that we recommend, like before you wake up and check what it says, like just kind of tune into your own body first. Like ask yourself, how do I feel today? After you actually wake up for a few minutes, like kind of just assess how you truly feel and then maybe check it a little bit later. But regardless, like that score isn't going to change whether you check it first thing when you wake up or you take a few minutes or half an hour and like let yourself wake up and then check it later. It's going to be the same. So at least give yourself the benefit of the doubt and like tune into what you're feeling, and that score is going to be the same later. It's kind of like when I tell you, like when you stay up to watch football, like
Whoa,
how
whoa, 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 whoa. One night, and
no, I know that
I'm thinking I should just go to bed at halftime, but it was such a good game last night. Patriots, Bills, they
I wasn't
won.
even using,
They're
I
turning it
didn't even
around.
know you stayed up last
I
night.
stopped watching baseball. I stopped watching basketball because those games start so late, and I'm like, I'm all about it. And I
I'm not
love
relating it.
football because
I'm
it's a
not
1 o'clock.
relating it to what you were thinking though.
I'm going all in. I miss football in San Diego because it was 10 o'clock in the morning and it was wonderful. And you got the whole rest of your day. You can go to bed early. I hate primetime games. I knew I was going to be tired today. The Kona thing just took me off for another whole nother loop.
That's
But
not where
to
I was
say I stay
going.
up for football, that was one time,
That's not where I was
all
going.
year that I stay up for football.
I didn't know you stayed up last night, for the record. I went to bed early. So that's news to me. But where I was going with that is the game's going to happen and they're going to play the way they're going to play, whether you watch it or not. So, what's the difference if you watch it later and find out the score later versus like watching it live? And I understand like it's this whole thing and like it's exciting and whatever. And you're probably going to see the score on social media and it's not the same.
It's not the same. I can't explain it, but it's not the same.
But that's my like parallel here. It's like the game happened. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and the score is going to be whatever it's going to be, whether you watch it live or you tune into it later. And that's the same thing with your Oura Ring or your Whoop. Like it's going to be what it's going to be. So at least assess how you feel first and then tune into what it says later.
It was a great attempt at an analogy. It was a great parallel, but there is something subconscious that makes it a huge difference. And for any sports fan, you understand what I'm talking about.
I will never understand, but that's okay.
And I cut out most of my sports. Like I love watching an afternoon Celtics game. Baseball was my sport. It's just too boring and too long and too late now. So that's just totally out. But that's why I love football season. It actually aligns with my schedule. It's perfectly timed with nap time right now at 1 o'clock, and the kids wake up and they'll finish watching the game with me, and it's great usually. Last night, not so great. But yes, to kind of wrap up exactly what you're talking about, analog wellness, this concept is about bringing you back to listening to your body and not necessarily outsourcing the numbers. So the shift is about regaining autonomy and not hating the tech. The tech is there as the tool. Similar to, or exactly as you just said, like I had to stop waking up and checking to see how I felt. You wake up, you start your day, you reflect back later, even if it's at the end of the day, check how you slept, that night, the following night, to see how you slept the night before, so it doesn't impact your decisions. Go off of feel. This is a big part. Again, I'm going to circle back to the Fitness League app. Huge part of the design is to give you the ability to be flexible with those things and to take your own quantitative and qualitative measurements. So like you can track sleep, how you just like based on feel. All these things are based on feel. It's your biofeedback. So sleep, stress, soreness, energy levels, hunger levels throughout the day. You can do that manually rather than have the app tell you that. Okay, this app says this is my readiness score and this is how I slept. We'll compare those things. And if like with what I was just talking about, check at the end of the day, log those things in the morning when you wake up, see how you feel, see how things are going, log those things manually in TFL, and then go back and reflect. Okay, this is how I actually felt. How did this app say that I felt? How does this app say I was supposed to perform today? Well, it said my readiness was a 20. I felt pretty good, and I just hit a PR today. So let that kind of correlate. And this, again, can feel like a ton of data, and it can be too much. So you can figure out what you actually want to track, and you can be flexible with that. To go back to the design, quote unquote, of TFL, we originally had plans to make this all in, everything you could possibly do all in one app. I'm no longer sure how far we're going to go with that. For one, there's plenty of great apps out there that we don't need to replicate. Strava, for example, great run tracker. So we will sync everything. You'll be able to sync all the data you want, learn about yourself. All those things will be built into with our machine learning. But I don't want there to be so many feature tools. Sure, let's call them featured tools. Featured tools in TFL that you're so overwhelmed that you, oh my gosh, where do I track? I can track all these things. What am I supposed to track? I'm not going to track any of these things. You get overwhelmed, you just don't do anything. So I want this to feel entirely intuitive. We're going to have the main components. Like when we go to launch, you guys are going to see the trackables, habits, biofeedback, vitals, performance, all that you can log. You can select the ones you specifically want to log. We're going to have this incredible built out program library, workout library, supplemental. You can track one-off exercises, build your own routine, whatever you want to do. Those will be built out and intuitive to the nth degree. The rest is going to be really based on feedback as far as what you guys tell us you really, really need, you want. It would make the world of difference. Again, you guys are the Fitness League. We are going to build this around you. We are going to collect all of that feedback. This whole platform, it's not even just going to be a platform. This stuff down the road, we're going to be doing some amazing things in person, and we got lots of plans. But this is a living, breathing organism, the Fitness League is. And we have 1,000 ideas of 1,000 different directions it can go and 1,000 concepts within each direction. We're not going to execute all of those. We are going to decide at each crossroad what makes the most sense based on what we're seeing, based on what you guys need, and based on what's going to have the biggest impact on the world.
I think even just like to give an example of something small, like I know this has come up a few times where like right now when you're tracking habits or trackables in general, it's like every day, like it's for 7 days of the week. So if someone asks like, well, what if I only want to do this habit 5 days of the week? Or I'm like, what's a good example of something that you wouldn't want to do every day?
Pressure potentially. Like I
So
like the whoop because it gives you the estimated on daily, but maybe you do that 2 or 3 days a week.
right. So just something that you don't necessarily want or need to do every day. Like that's something we're going to implement where it's like you're not forced into tracking this thing every day. Because right now, if you don't do it every day, you don't see that 100% by the end of the week. So it's like that's a great example of something that one of you had an idea of, and we're going to try to implement it so that it does make sense for you and you can really build it in a way that makes sense for your habits and your goals and the things that you want to track.
Yeah, you'll be able to set frequencies right now. Like that's not a version 1 implementation. That's on our roadmap. But we do have a really cool update coming out, I believe today, in our beta app that we're using right now. where you can subscribe to a trackable. That just means you're select, I want to track this thing. So let's say you are doing blood pressure, just for the example we just gave. You can subscribe to it, you can log it, and you can immediately unsubscribe from it. So it's not going to go and mess up all your averages like, oh, I didn't track my blood pressure today. Now I'm at a 75% for the day instead of 100. You'll be able to subscribe and unsubscribe without it affecting everything while keeping that data logged. So it's kind of an intermediary usage for it, is just quickly select it, log it, and then you can unselect it tomorrow so it doesn't mess with your scores. But eventually, yes, we will have custom frequency to say, hey, this is how often I want to track it, or these days, or whatever that looks like. We'll work through that. So again, giving you guys all the flexibility. I even want to be able to do like labs, one-off labs, which those would be, maybe you do it quarterly or biannually. I want you to have all those things so you can see what habits and what protocols have the biggest impact on those things that you need to improve for those labs and those health markers. So there's our quick TFL plug and a little update on what it looks like and what's going on there. Just while we're on, I'll throw it out. We are currently on track to go live to our current community this month. I don't know when in October, but we are on track to be able to get it into your hands in October. Everyone else will be launching to the public closer to the new year. Current audience, current environment, those of you who are involved in our platform in any way, shape, we will be blasting this update out to you guys. We'll give you all the details on how to get in there. So that's where we're at. Next topic, biohacking versus biology, and figuring out where do we draw the line. So to zoom out, figuring out where are we headed with self-tracking, why more data doesn't always mean more progress, what's empowering versus what's performative, and the tension between science-backed tools and placebo-fueled trends. So foundational tools, let's start there. I want to break down these basically in tiers. These are the big rocks, the things that everything afterwards means very little if you're not doing these things first. So foundational pieces, the big rocks, most of these, all of these, fall into what we call the L5 method: training, nutrition, mindset, movement, and habits. Now, the way this works with our clients, we assign a protocol into each of those pillars. And that's a way to keep it really simple. It's not a one-size-fits-all plan, it's a blueprint. So movement for one person might be a morning walk with the family. Movement for another person might be, a 10-mile hike every weekend. It can be polar opposites, it can be totally different protocols. But those are the buckets. So the easiest way to simplify your health is to pick one thing, one basic thing, start very, very minimal, one simple thing that you're never going to skip, and build on it. Training, nutrition, mindset, movement, habits. Training, it could be 2 or 3 days a week of body weight movements. It could be 6 days a week of a 30 to 45-minute workout. Pick the thing that makes sense for where you're at. So those are the foundational tools. When it comes to nutrition, maybe it's focusing on calories and protein. It's not full macros. Maybe it's not tracking anything. Maybe it's just wiping out the highly processed foods we're currently consuming and replacing those with whole foods. These are the basics. Sleeping 7+ hours a night. We have to start here.
That might be the biggest misconception when it comes to someone starting their health and fitness journey, is that they want to start, they want to go all in, they want to change all the things at once, or at least like a handful of things at once. And it's like, only do that if you don't want to be successful longer than a couple weeks. Because if you're trying to change your entire lifestyle and all of your habits and everything that is familiar and comfortable right now, that you've been doing for years and years and years, and you try to just uproot all of that and change it all in a day, it's not going to last. There is, I will say, 0% chance that lasts longer than maybe for some you get a couple months in, but for most of you doing that, it's not going to work. You have to take it slow, and it's going to almost feel wrong to take it that slow because it's against everything that anyone has ever, just far as health and fitness goes, and just what you personally believe that is going to see progress. Like it feels wrong. But for long-term sustainability, that is the way. That is how we actually make change and commit to that change and have that change feel good, versus changing all of it at once and all those changes just end up feeling terrible and feel like something you can't stick to the second something goes wrong with your schedule or your life.
I did not plan to keep doing this, but this tells me that we are building the app the right way because I keep circling back to it based on things that are happening. Forever, we have been so anti-challenge because just the word challenge has been exactly what you just said. It's these non-sustainable things. Oh, it's going to build all your momentum and, kickstart your fat loss and blah, blah, blah. It's going to change your life. Well, it's really not. It's going to change your life for a week. It's going to change your life for a month, but these aren't lifestyle changes. So that is by definition not going to change your life. It's just a short blip in your life. Changing your life is the lifestyle changes, is the actual big rocks and implementation of those. So one of the big components, basically the gamification, one of the biggest gamifications in the creation of this quote unquote league, a la the fitness league, is challenges. Something we've been so against for life is one of our core features of this product. But with a very large twist. The challenges we will be running are not 30-day weight loss challenges. They're not how many miles can you run in the next 7 days, and it's got to be 100 or more, or it doesn't count. It's not these huge things. The challenges that we are going to be running and that we will be rewarding within our community are the big rocks. Can we hit a certain number of steps? So steps will likely be one. Maybe we do a push-up challenge. Can we be consistent with the push-up challenges? Optimizing sleep. Did we get 7 hours of sleep a night? Now, the cool thing about this is you can't just have one bell ringer who does nothing all week or nothing all month and then goes and hikes Mount Kilimanjaro and wins the step challenge. The algorithm takes into account consistency. How often are you at the top each week? And how many weeks did you win to win the month? So it's forcing you, if you want to perform well in these challenges, to be consistent with these habits to see your rank go up. So it's a very smart algorithm, and it's built in a specific way to provide the reinforcement in a sense. Obviously, you're not going to have a coach, but with what we focus on with our clients, our one-on-one coaching clients, it's consistency. It's being not perfect, but being as consistent as you can with all of these things. Well, that's what the challenges are going to reward. And the beautiful thing about it, for those of you who aren't necessarily ready for whatever reason, we've got all kinds of different programs. But let's say you want to start with the basics. You're starting from scratch and you just need to focus on movement throughout the day. You can use challenges for free forever. You can always be enrolled in one challenge and have free access to the app. There's no limit on that. You can't create multiple challenges. You can't do our challenge and invite your friends to a challenge or join your friends' challenge. It's one challenge. You get access to one challenge, but you can track all those things, and it's not going to cost you anything. Now, ideally, most of our people will be using the app and all of its benefits and doing the whole game-changing, life-changing process to all the other features that we have. But to make this accessible to everybody, because our goal and our mission is to make the world a happy, healthy place, is to give you the access to that for free. So to dive into our next tier, supportive tech. And I would throw the Fitness League app in with this. So things like Apple Watch, Oura Ring, Whoop, any kind of app tracker, the Fitness League, this is going to be supportive tech. Without the foundational tools, doesn't matter. You're just collecting data on things that you're not optimizing. So that's a quick one. Now, the next one is going to be experimental things. So CGM, so continuous glucose monitors. For those of you who are not diabetics, smart glasses with wellness dashboards, red light face masks, smart rings, smart pills, smart mirror, all the things. Supplementals like nootropics, NAD patches, microbiome kits. These are the tip of the iceberg. They can be helpful. They can provide more insight and take like the wearables and the traditional supplemental tech, supportive tech to another level, but without the tech or a professional to guide you through that. And without the foundational tools, as we walk back down the pyramid, very minimal benefit, if any. It's the last fraction there, which can put you over the top and provide some very cool insights, be very powerful, very beneficial, but it means next to nothing without those other supportive pieces, those foundations, those pillars in place.
Great example. We've been intrigued by the red light stuff. We don't have any red light things yet, but Joelle recently got one. I don't know if we have an update from her, if she's been using it a lot. We'll have to ask her maybe tomorrow. But I like, if you're buying a red light mask with the intent to improve how your skin looks and you're not paying any attention to your diet, you're not drinking enough water every day, you're super dehydrated, you eat mostly processed food, and you're trying to heal your acne or wrinkles or whatever it is with this red light mask, the red light mask is only going to do so much if you're not focusing on what needs to be focused on internally to get better skin. And I think that's just a great example because a lot of people can relate to that, whether you use it for any of the reasons I said, or I know there's a lot of other benefits to red light too, but like, your skin starts in your gut. Like, it starts with the foods that you eat, how much water you drink per day. You can see a difference in your skin if you go a week without drinking enough water and you're super dehydrated. It's going to show in your skin. So, just that is like the easiest, most simple example I can give you as far as like the basics, and then the shiny, flashy thing that's catching your attention. And I think that's the issue that we have right now with a lot of the world, is like people are so attracted to the shiny thing, but they're still not doing probably the easier and less expensive thing that's going to make more of an impact.
Case in point, growing up in high school, I had the worst skin on the planet. Horrible acne. It was oily. I had the worst skin and tried all the things, all the topicals, face washes, creams, gels, microdermabrasion, the procedures, whatever. Did very little. All these expensive things, still had terrible skin. Until I shifted into this focus on health and wellness. Like, my diet was 50% ultra processed foods. I loved candy, oily foods, just minimal water. Maybe, I don't know if I drank any water. It was like milk. I lived on milk. As soon as I shifted my diet, as soon as most of that shit was gone, my skin improved dramatically in a very short period of time. Very short period of time. My gut improved. My health improved. My skin improved. So all these fancy tools, all these shiny objects did not change the game. Did not move the needle. Cleaning up my diet and drinking water, poof. Everything magically fixed. And it's a joke. It's not magical. It's literally how your body works. You have to take care of yourself from the inside, moving those big rocks first. If you have any interest, and you're probably not even going to need a lot of the things at the tip of the iceberg. This is real stuff, and it's tangible. And there's data behind it. And it's so unsexy, and it's so demotivating to many people because it's not something you can walk into for an hour once a month and just have your problem be solved. It's something you need to take 10 minutes, but every single day to maintain. And once you get that foundation set, once you have those habits and those protocols, becomes routine, it's built into the regimen, you don't even think about it. You just do the things and you look better and you feel better and you move better, perform better. But it just feels like such a big lift. And that's kind of the point of this episode. Not to shame the tools and the trends. Many of them are incredible. But everything feels like a must do, so we drown in the pressure. So the way forward is to pick 2 to 3 non-negotiables. Something with your sleep routine. Some type of resistance training. A daily walk. Minimizing the ultra-processed stuff. Swapping in some whole foods. Having a bowl of fruit. Having some berries for the quick plant points. And only use the tech if it's helping you be more consistent. If it's giving you anxiety, scale back until you get your routine down. Do that first. And then bring the tech in, and it'll take you to a whole nother level when you understand how to balance it. We also want to, again, focus back on designing our space, improving our environment. So the default behavior is the right behavior. And we cannot forget that health is cumulative. There's no shortcut. It is not transactional. You cannot purchase your health. It is the tiny little things that you do every single day that lead to the dramatic transformations over time. Let me say that again. It is the tiny little changes and decisions and choices that you make every single day that lead to the dramatic transformations over time. There is no way around that. And if you have built this giant mountain of poor decisions and lifestyle choices and sleep habits, you have to work through that first, one scoop at a time. Everything else is going to be a Band-Aid. Everything else is going to lead to a setback. There is no way around it. You just have to face it and start digging. Get yourself out of that hole, climb the mountain, whatever metaphor, analogy you want to use. You have to start with the foundational little things. beaten this point home because so many people overlook that. There is no perfect training routine. There is no perfect setup for X, Y, or Z. That's why we talk about those 5 pillars. You can just pick one thing that makes sense, and it can be tiny. It can be the smallest thing. It can be reading 2 pages before you go to bed instead of watching the 5th episode of whatever you're watching on Netflix or Apple TV or whatever your platform of choice is. And you're going to sleep a little better. And you're going to feel a little better. And then you'll make another choice the next day and the next day and the next day. And it might seem like nothing in the moment, but a week later, you feel pretty good. A month later, you're really starting to see changes. A year later, dramatic transformation. And a year sounds like a long time. But in a year from now, when you continue on the same path that you're on, and you look exactly the same, you feel exactly the same, and you're so aggravated by it, then you'll start what we just said. If you're truly bothered by it, it's like, okay, now it's time. But you just wasted that year. So just start today. The tiniest thing. Anything you want to add?
I think you summed it up pretty well.
All right, fam. We're going to wrap up this conversation with the reminder that change doesn't come in one big moment. It's built in the ways you keep showing up. So take what you learned today and build the best version of yourself for tomorrow. Where can they find you?
I'm at Alessandra Skutnik.
I'm at Josh Skutnik.
And everything else you need is linked in the show notes.